This is a University of Lethbridge Department of Mathematics and Computer Science 2610 video by Nicole Wilson. This is the first in a series of 4 videos where we will explore the Magic Box kit. Each of the kits used in this course comes in one of these plastic containers labeled with the kit number. At the beginning of the semester in your first lab, you will be assigned a kit. You're expected to use and maintain that kit for the entire semester. You will be one of 2 to 3 people who will be using the same kit, so make sure you keep it in good shape. First, most important thing in the kit is the Magic Box itself. This is a board. You can see it's all wired and nicely put together here. On it you will find 12 switches, 8 LED readouts, a 7-segment hex display. There's also 4 spots for wires over here. The first is related to the probe, and the other 3 are related to the clock. Clock pulses can be done automatically, or you can have manual control. If you set these switches to have manual control, this button controls the clock pulses. If you set it to have automatic, then the last 2 switches determine the speed that it moves at. All 3 of these are attached to the clock. They are not different. Whatever your clock settings, all 3 of these give you the same pulses at the same time. We have 2 power places for plugs to put power. This one attaches to a plug that plugs into the wall. This one attaches to your breadboard to power your breadboard. There's an on-off switch. Those are all the working parts you need to be able to use. But note, there is here one part that sticks up, and there's a chip that sticks right out. You don't need to do anything with it, but be aware it can bend fairly easily, so don't abuse it. It's also got a big heat sink on it. That heat sink is there, 1, to cool the chip, but 2, to kind of reinforce it so it doesn't bend so badly. And because it does get very warm when you have the unit on for a while, this heat sink can become quite warm. Not warm enough to burn you, but probably shouldn't be playing with it. Next thing you find in each kit are 2 tools. This is a wire cutter and this is a chip puller. The wire cutter is calibrated so it doesn't close all the way. That's so that you can strip wires with it. If you move this, you can instead cut wires. We don't need to do much of either of those anymore, but occasionally it does come up. The chip puller is to pull chips out of the breadboard. There's a later video about that. We have 2 sets of wires. There's this wire bundle. In this wire bundle are a bunch of longer wires that can be used for various purposes, for connecting things. And then there's a baggie of wires. In this, there's some very short ones. These short wires are very useful for powering and grounding your chips. There's one long wire in this baggie that is useful to use when you need to use the probe. And then this wire, but the attachment on the end is for powering the breadboard. In the second video in this series that shows how to set up the components properly, I'll show you how to connect that. There's our power unit that gets plugged into the wall or some socket. There's our chips. So this is a case of chips. Notice they're labeled with the kit number. In here there are 26 chips. These chips are all labeled in white. It may be hard to see some of these on the video. They do fade after a while, so they may need to be refreshed. We keep a white oil paint marker up at the front of the classroom with the kits. Make sure you ask your lab instructor for help with that. And the last component is the breadboard. The breadboard is where we seat the chips and where we connect the wires so that we can actually make our circuits. These have a sticky back on them that's got a covering. We don't want to remove that covering. These actually are in 3 pieces. If you took the sticky back off, you could take this plastic piece off the side and this one and leave the middle. These are connected so that any wire you connect down here is connected all the way along this row. Same with the one next to the red line here. These are used for ground and power, ground and power. We usually power on top, ground on the bottom. And in the middle, they are connected in columns, except not across the trench. So all 5 of these spots are connected to a wire. They're all the same value now. We don't want to connect 2 different values to the same spot. Okay, so that's the contents of the kit. In the next video, we'll talk about how to set up your components to start working.